So you said you work like 20 hours a week now, is that right?
Yeah, about 20 to 25.
So
Yeah.
how do you kind of approach your work-life balance, I guess is the way to say it, but how do you manage your time around work versus time around family?
So for me, it was a lot harder until I became a parent. And once I became a parent, I had very strict boundaries that I just won't cross. And I think a lot of that is because when I was starting off on my own, I worked for the Mixergy podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But they interview entrepreneurs, mostly like startup Silicon Valley types. And so part of what I would do was this pre-interview process where I would talk to the person, we'd kind of go over what they're going to discuss, all of these things. And over again, I would hear the regret that they threw their entire, everything they had into their business and now they were divorced. Or, all these years went by and then they realized it, but those years are lost with your kids. Like you can't get that back. That's great that you make that realization and that they turn it around, but there's no going back and changing that. And I just heard that so many times. And I remember thinking before I had kids, before, this was even a big concern for me, I will never make that mistake. And so when my daughter came, that was it. Like my schedule revolves around her. And honestly, it's been the best thing for my business because it forced me to hold boundaries that I was not good at holding on my own. And as a result, I lost any clients that didn't respect those boundaries and filled those spaces much easier than I thought. And you get a lot more respect from the clients that, are understanding and are willing to work with you. And so it's another one of those things where, you're on the other side of it and you're like, why did I not do this all along? Everything is better this way. But it took, having a child and not being willing to compromise on that. Because if my family is, in our kitchen, they're having dinner and I'm here working, that to me is not acceptable. That's not something I will ever do. It is a line I can't cross. It makes me feel terrible. And so I think that's a lot of it is just thinking about all of those entrepreneurs and their regret and their voices and what happened to their family life because they were so oriented toward work and so focused on the work.
Hey guys, it's Henry cutting in really quick. If you're enjoying this episode, I have another video I think you'll really love, especially if you're interested in copywriting. In 2019, the legendary copywriter Clayton Makepeace invited me to speak at his financial copywriting intensive. And he wanted me to talk about how I come up with my big ideas for copywriting promotions. So I boiled the process down to just 8 steps, 8 questions really, to ask yourself to take a weak idea and turn it into a monster that does $1 million, $10 million, or even $100 million in revenue. You can get that talk by going to henryb.co/idea. Once you sign up for my email list, you'll get that talk and a whole lot more goodies. Again, that's henryb.co/idea.